Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, what's up, sir?
Not a heck of a lot. Trying to play catch up from a busy weekend working out of town, but I did get your nice gift that you and your wife bought me hung up. So it is back there
There you
on
go.
nice Ravens clock. But yeah, just playing lots of playing catch up and yeah, trying to recap as I missed pretty much everything until Sunday sports.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Absolutely busy time for both of us right now. Um, I am frantically working on three different projects as we were going live. I'm still trying to get one done that we're recording once this show gets done, but it's all going to get there. They're all going to have a lot of fun. On today's show, we have a lot to talk about. Of course, we will hit all of the local news, including the Warrior Invitational that just concluded a couple of hours ago, as well as a big four-game sweep for the Warrior baseball team. On top of that, the Masters was this weekend. I watched very little of it, as expected. We'll get into some sports we don't normally talk about on this show because they're all kind of hitting big moments of their seasons. The WNBA draft happened yesterday. The NBA play-in games are tonight, and the playoffs are getting ready to start. The NHL playoffs are very close to starting as well. One last race that has to get concluded before that. We don't talk about those sports very often on this show, but we'll give them a little bit of love this week. Of course, the NFL draft just over a week away. We'll probably do one more mock draft next week, but right now we'll just kind of hit on our favorite teams and kind of give you what we're feeling there. Of course, the second hour will be full of a lot of Major League Baseball as that season is full in force. We'll get to a sports related draft. We'll talk some Aussie rules football. We'll get into all of that and so much more. Would like to just throw out there real quick, though it is not a sports related themed episode this week, but Bad Brackets once again dropped on Monday night. If you are a nerd like myself, go check it out. Best Final Fantasy games of all time. Had a ton of fun with Andrew Scott and Sean this week as we nerded out for just over an hour. A lot of laughs and a lot of picking on Andrew and his bad takes. That's your sneak preview for that episode.
Isn't that what normally happens when we have Harry on? It's
We
two
always
ganging
find
up on
somebody. We find
somebody.
somebody to pick on. They all start picking on me, and then by the end, they're picking on each other. It's how it works out. All right, let's get into it. Huge weekend for LCSC sports, starting with the big four-game series. Number 9 Warriors hosted the number 2 team in the country, the LSU Shreveport Pilots, and shockingly, it ended up in a sweep. The LC Warriors took all four games from the number 2 team in the country. I was predicting a split, possibly 3-1 either way. I did not think either team was going to be able to sweep the other, but really, other than Friday, which was a fantastic pitcher's duel, and we'll get into that, and then a really good back and forth game, the first game Saturday. The other two games, the final two games of the series, was really all LC, and it was really shocking to see. Have you been able to see any of these results? And what do you think? Just looking at these results, you've been able to watch the Warriors as well, but to sweep the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah, it was quite difficult this week, so I was trying to pay attention as much of the stats as possible on my phone with sidearm at my meetings that I was at, but listening to what was happening was tough as I could not hear Danner or yourself calling the game, so it was a little difficult. But going in, we thought that number 2 team was going to come in, and it was going to be the first time of seeing a really high up team that should be back in Lewiston
Mm-hmm.
in just over 4 weeks, and the biggest news that I heard come out of this one is I got a text right away. It said Hofstetter walks off, and I'm like, wow, and that, as his first year there. But as far as the other games, the weather on the one game had to get picked back up on Sunday. But just reading the stories that were online, it sounds like it was a huge weekend.
And sure, I mean, you can tease who's
Mm-hmm.
playing who and stuff, and usually that's what people are saying about Lewis Clark State. We said it multiple times over the weekend on the broadcast and off air as well, talking to Denny and Alicia. And now the Cascade Conference continues to improve from top to bottom. British Columbia has really risen up the ranks the last couple of years. Eastern Oregon has now kind of been a contender as well. We'll see what happens when Warner Pacific joins the league next year. But the Warriors are getting tested more and more in the regular season that they weren't getting tested those first couple of years in the Cascade Conference, and it's definitely helping. Obviously, this was such a cool weekend to have a team that we have seen many times over, come to Lewiston for the NAIA World Series, but just to have a normal series in the middle of the regular season was so much fun. And especially on Friday before the rain chased everybody off, like this was a preview for what the World Series looks like in Lewiston. Like the atmosphere was there, the crowd was there. They packed that place up, especially for a Friday night game. It was cool that it was all under the lights, especially with the dark clouds. It got dark really early, so it really kind of felt like we were getting into those late games at LC, and you're thinking that the other games have been postponed so much, so now you're just late into the night trying to get these games done. And it was so much fun. And again, the energy through all four games were fantastic. We saw a bit of everything this weekend. As we said, the first game got postponed for 2 days due to the rain. They got to the bottom of the seventh inning. Rhodey for LSU Shreveport and Drake George. I was banking on his name for a moment. I have a bunch of different names in my head, but Drake George, that was such a fun pitcher's duel for 6.5 innings. I wish the rain would have held off a little bit longer to see what would have concluded. I think George's day was done anyways. He's 111 pitches after 7 innings. Rhodey probably would have came out in the seventh. He had 96 pitches at that point, but that one gets suspended at 0-0. They push it all the way back to Sunday morning to conclude that. So we get through games 2 and 3 first. Just again, I totally understand why, because LSU Shreveport needs to travel on Sunday, and it's a lot easier to play a game and a third on a Sunday and get them out instead of trying to play 2 full games on Sunday and then do a game and a third on Saturday. So they did everything they could to make it as easy as possible for the Pilots, who played today, by the way. They went home and played a game today, so their schedule's nutty. But as you said, Hofstetter with a big walk-off home run in the first game Saturday. And then a pitcher came in for LSU Shreveport who had an ERA of under 0.5. He was more of a reliever than a starter. Came in, gave up 6 runs in that first inning, and LC never looked back. They won it handily 8-3. And then that second game on Sunday, and Denny can say it in the comments as well, it had just about everything. There were base running mistakes on both teams. There was ridiculous catches. Nick Siemens in left field had one of the best catches I've seen all year, if not for several years, diving towards the fence in left field, away from the ball, and diving it to save runs and basically save the game at that point. Just some ridiculous stuff going on in this series, and it just shows that we can question what the Warriors are going to do all season long. They have their ups and their downs, but when you play at Harris Field and you get into April and May, this team always seems to be able to find a switch. And they found that switch against one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, it's one of those series, just reading the stories over the last couple of days, especially reading and off lcwarriors.com to reading off of what you see in the local Tribune and the aspects of both games. It makes me feel like, dang, I missed out on probably the best set of games of the year. But you're 1000% right. Once this weather turns really good and it's playoff season, this Warrior team coached by Jake Taylor seems to find a whole nother level and to rise that notch up, click it one more or two more times up just to ramp things up.
And real quickly, again, with that fourth game on Sunday, I definitely got my money's worth calling that game. 15 different pitchers were used in that game. There was 379 pitches thrown between the two. And I have never seen a team replace a pitcher mid at bat more than I watched with LSU Shreveport.
I thought, you were there that Sunday of College of Idaho game, and you saw my score sheet with all the changes. I think we had 8 pitchers in that one, 8 or 9 pitchers in that game on Sunday. And I brought it home to Denise, and I was like, look at my day. And you see, and I even sent it to Alicia. I said, look at all these changes and we had infielders change and outfielders switches. And it was more than I had ever did changing my score sheet that Sunday.
And this series made that just pale in comparison. It was insane. But the Warriors now 27-9 on the year. They've won their last 8 games. They're 16-0 at home. Big series on the road in Canada this weekend against British Columbia, with a chance to really solidify their chances to win the Cascade Conference regular season and host the Cascade Conference tournament. That sets off Friday at 6 p.m. They have a doubleheader on Saturday starting at 3 p.m. and then one more on Sunday at 11 a.m. One final regular season weekend for the baseball squad, as they will host Bushnell in a pair of doubleheaders Saturday and Sunday, April 27th and 28th. So come on out, check out the Warriors before all of the crazy postseason stuff starts going on. And of course, they'll do all the senior night stuff on that Sunday before games start at 11 a.m. More stuff happened here in the Valley. I was able to go over there for about 2 hours today before I had to come home and take care of some stuff. But the LC golf teams, hosted the Warrior Invitational over the Lewiston Golf and Country Club. And the man did it again. Bryden Brown, who was our guest last week, has now won 3 straight individual tournaments, all 3 via a playoff. This one in the first hole of the playoffs, where he birdied 18 over there. He had to birdie 18 to force the playoffs. He and, let me make sure I get his name right, Jake Johnson, both were in the same grouping together. They both birdied 18 to force the playoff. Unfortunately, I wasn't there for the end of it. I saw Bryden at, the 12th hole, a little par 3 over there. I was able to watch him for a little bit, saw some of the women's groups go by on 9 before I had to take off. It was very cool. Got to meet Bryden Brown's parents, who appreciated our show and having their son on. And I told him he did a great job, and he's just kicking butt. And then he goes out there and wins this tournament again. So congratulations to friend of the show, Bryden Brown. 3 straight individual championships. By the way, 7 under par in those 3 rounds for Bryden Brown.
Just crazy numbers. And it's like we were talking. I mean, this kid has put up numbers even back into the high school when we asked him about it last. I wish I could just get close to those scores.
Right. No kidding. LC men did finish second as a team. And it was one of those situations where, so if you don't know, you get to pick 5 people on your team. And then you take your 4 best scores. Well, LC has more than 5 golfers, and the other ones get to play as individuals. So they can go for the individual title, but their scores do not count. And it was just one of those situations where Zach Anderson just picked the wrong grouping. which just shows how deep this team is. But as I click on something and it goes to the women's scores, so hold on, let me pull this back up so I have the right stuff. Bryden Brown won the tournament at 7 under par. Jake Johnson tied him at 7 under, finished second. Alex Navarro finished third for Lewis Clark State. He was part of the squad. However, then you get to Hunter Millsap, who Bryden Brown talked about last week. But Hunter Millsap shoots 1 under par for the tournament, finishes in 4th place, but he was playing as an individual. So those scores did not count for the Warriors. And then Oscar Beal, who Bryden also brought up last week, also shot as an individual, finished tied for 5th at even par. So 4 of the top 5 finishers were Warriors. Unfortunately, only 2 of them counted as far as the team score goes. And the Warriors end up shooting 12 strokes out of first place. British Columbia, I think they're the 5th ranked team on the men's side, ends up winning the whole thing.
I wonder how he sits down and figures out exactly. I mean, yeah, with all the practice that they do, it's how he goes about deciding and basically rolling the dice. Who do I put in? Is like you said, this team is so very deep.
Yeah,
I'd like to know that thought press.
Yeah, still very young as well. Maybe we'll have to get Zach on. They have their Cascade Conference tournament in a couple weeks. So maybe we can sneak him on next week or something and get a thought process there. But it had to have been very difficult to pick between some of these guys. And you never know who's going to get on a roll or not. You and I golf. There's just days where things, feel right. And you start shooting well. For me, that's like 5 bogeys in a row. And I feel great about that. But you just never know. The women also finished in 2nd place. They did beat 2 ranked teams. So congratulations to them. But they were no match for British Columbia, who's the number 1 team in the country. UBC finished 25 over as a squad. LC finished 21 strokes back in 2nd, but 11 ahead of Oregon Tech. Deanna Carrasso, who has also been on the show, been a couple of years, but we've had her on the show as well. She finished in 4th place at 7 over, 3 off the lead. She was one of the groupings that I got to watch on 9, and at that point she had like 4 or 5 holes left, and she was tied for the lead and hanging in there. But Elizabeth Labby, I apologize, Elizabeth. I know you're not watching the show, but I apologize if I butchered your name either way. What a final 2 holes for her. She started on 11, goes all the way around, birdies 9 and eagles 10 to win the tournament by 1 shot. 3 under in her final 2 holes to win by 1. So what a wild finish for her. So British Columbia had 2 of the top 3 finishers. Deanna Caruso finished 4th. Isabella Barquet finished tied for 11th. Kyla Curry was near the top after the first round, struggled today. She finished tied for 15th. Dallas Shockey also with a top 15 performance. But overall, very good performance, I think, for the LC golf team as they were able to represent, I think, their home golf course pretty well with a couple of 2nd place finishes with how good the Cascades Conference is. And we'll see how they do against that conference when they play the CCC Championships April 29th through May 1st in Blaine, Washington.
Go play. And the other thing about that, you look at the women's team, 2 seniors with Carrasco, but then the rest of them, 1 sophomore, and I think 3 or 4 freshmen. So
yeah, the women especially, the women especially are very young, and they got some really good talent. Look at some other LC news before we move on. Tennis has wrapped up their regular season. For the men, they played 3 times this weekend. They went up against NCAA Division III opponent Whitworth and got a 6-3 victory up there in Spokane. And then they played 2 matches against Whitman on Sunday. Not a doubleheader. They just had enough players where they split everybody up, and then made my brain hurt because it wasn't how the normal tennis goes where the same group plays doubles and then they split off to play singles. It was a mixture of both. So a one player would play in doubles for the first match and then play singles in the second match, and the scoring got all weird. But Whitman did win both. They won one of the matches 6-3, and the other one 5-4. So the men finished the regular season at 12-13. They will start in they're not affiliated with a conference for men's tennis. So they travel to New Orleans this week, and they will play in the semifinal matchup against Our Lady of the Lake from Texas in the NAIA Unaffiliated Group Championship. That will be at 8 a.m. on Friday. Our Lady of the Lake and LC have played once already this year, and LC did not do well. We'll just say that. But I should have a preview up tomorrow, unless I crash on this desk by the time I get everything else done. That is for the men. The women played 2 times this last weekend. They beat Whitworth 7-2 on Saturday, and then had their last home team counting event on Monday when they went up against NCAA Division I opponent Idaho State. Idaho State and the Bengals were able to win that one 7-0. So the LC women finished their regular season 7-19. They will face Highland Community College on Friday at 5 p.m. at the LCSC Tennis Center on Friday, 5 p.m. As I said, this is a non-team scoring event, but it'll count towards individual stats. And then they will head off to San Antonio, Texas, April 25th through the 27th, as they're part of the Red River Conference, even though they're nowhere near the Red River. That's just how tennis works.
Yeah.
One last thing real quick. Track and field competed in the NNU Invitational. You can check all of that out at lcwarriors.com. But shout out to Annika Grogan, who won the 200-meter race with a time of 26.2. Bryson Brown had a personal best time of just under 2 minutes and finished 7th in the 800 meters as well. As the Warriors will take part in the Cascade Conference Multi-Championships Thursday and Friday in La Grande, Oregon. And then they will split up and be part. Some will play or compete in the Eastern Oregon Invite on Saturday, and some will compete in the WSU Invite on Saturday. So if there wasn't enough going on in LC sports, they're splitting up and doing more.
Yeah, 100%. And also shout out some of the awards and accolades that came out. Yes. The 52 athletes that from Warrior Spring Sports that recognized for academic all conference. So congratulations to them. And then you look at Callie Stevens, another award accolade coming her way, as she was voted the first LC State women's basketball player as the CSC Academic All-American. So friend of the show. I love working with Callie. Congratulations.
Absolutely. All right. Your turn to talk. Talks about some Clarkston sports, sir.
Yeah. So busy weekend, lots of double headers over the last couple of days, and Clarkston Bantams ended up losing a home game the day after our show against West Valley, but then took on a team from Rogers, the Pirates, and was able to come away with both games on that one, 12-2 in game one and 9-5. Trace Green, Bodie Thievers, Bodie pitching in both games. And shout out to Bodie. Bodie got recognized along with Eloise Teasley today with some GSL awards. Hopefully we'll get all that information. We'll bring that to you next week. And sounds like he is committing to LC. So I don't know if that means maybe he's going to try to walk on and play for Coach Taylor. Who knows? We'll find out, as Bodie is a baseball player, 3-sport athlete with that. But he had a couple of big innings in both games in that one against Rogers. They are currently playing tomorrow. Well, will currently play tomorrow, Senior Day at Adams Field, as they host in Shadle Park, 4 p.m. first pitch in that one. And then they've got a doubleheader on Saturday on the road, taking on the Knights East Valley. And then they'll be back up at Rogers on Tuesday next week at 4 p.m. in that one. Don't think they're going to make a big splash in the postseason, but a couple of big wins. This one might change a little bit of the role a little bit, and then they can keep going. So, as far as the girls, this girls softball team now ranked 5th in the WIA 2A softball, 10-1 on the season, 6-0 in league play right now, and come away with a big win against West Valley last week, just as we were coming off the air. They had won that one, but even more impressive is what the McMangill is still doing. Murray Bromling and them. Murray had 6 hits against Rogers this past weekend. Randy, have you ever seen 48 runs ever scored in 2 games?
No, but I've seen it in like Colfax or whatever that scorebook was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so Clarkson took on Rogers here at home on Saturday. Again, another one of those games, set of games I really wish I could have been here to see. Knock off the Pirates 24-1 in game 1, and then beat the Pirates again 24-5. Emma McMangill is just a beast throwing that. I went and stopped at practice the other day and just watched her throw the ball pitching. It is phenomenal what she can do control wise with that ball. So I have not heard a score update as today they were on the road taking on Shadle Park. That was a 4:00 start on that one. So hopefully we will have some more information on that one. And then they've got another double header on Saturday up again at East Valley, 12-2 first pitch up there. And then they'll be home on Tuesday as they host in the Pullman Greyhounds. And then soccer will have a game on Thursday, 4:00 in Pullman, and then they'll travel up to Deer Park on Saturday.
All right, for Lewiston, I feel like this is the 4th straight doubleheader that the Bengals got beat up in the first game, and then were able to bounce back and win the second game. This one not as bad in the first game. They lose it 8-2, but only get I want to say it was 2 or 3 hits for when I looked at it this weekend. But they do bounce back. They score 5 runs in the first inning and were able to beat Lake City 7-5. So another split on the road for the Bengals. Are 7-7 overall, just 4-6 in conference play. So right now, still 4th in the Inland Empire League, trying to work their way back up. Couple of series this upcoming week, as they are at Sandpoint on Saturday and then at Lakeland on Tuesday. So we will see how they're able to do. And then finally, they come back home. After the Lakeland series, they come back and they play 2 doubleheaders at home before the end of the regular season. So it's getting almost back to that time where you can have baseball at Church Field. Lewiston softball also split with Lake City. They lost the first game 15-8. They won the second game 10-5. They're now 6-6 overall, 4-2 in conference play. They got a couple of home doubleheaders incoming. They host Sandpoint on Saturday at noon, and then they'll host Lakeland on Tuesday starting at 3 p.m. All of those games up at Airport Park. So go check out some Bengal softball, especially because everything else is out of town. Like, we had so much stuff happening this weekend in the Valley, and then they're all either taking the week off or playing elsewhere. So perfect time to go support the softball team up there at Airport Park. All right, real quick before we let Robert talk about his silly golfers, because the live golf has ruined my enjoyment of golf. So I don't watch it as much as I used to. Let's run through the scoreboard real quick for Major League Baseball. Royals and White Sox were postponed. So everyone that really wanted to watch the 2-14 White Sox play, sorry, it's not happening today. Marlins beat the Giants for their 4th win of the year. They win at 6-3. They're in the top of the 11th inning. The Angels just took a 5-4 lead over Tampa Bay. They still have 2 on with 2 out. Bottom of the 8th inning, Mets over the Pirates 3-1. Yankees working their way back, but still trail the Blue Jays 5-3. It was 5-1 when I first pulled up the scorebook here a couple of minutes ago. So trying to work their way back there. Bottom of the 7th inning, Red Sox over the Guardians 6-5. They go to the 7th inning in Milwaukee with San Diego up 4-1. Atlanta with a 1-0 lead over Houston. Oh, a couple more finals just popped up here at the bottom that I missed. Baltimore defeated Minnesota 11-3. Shocked that Denny did not tell us that when he first popped in. And Philadelphia shut out Colorado 5-0. And Detroit with a 4-2 win over Texas. So the Tigers with the win. Still to come, Cubs, Diamondbacks, Reds, Mariners, Cardinals, Athletics, and the surprising 7-9 Nationals going up against the Los Angeles Dodgers. So a full thing of baseball for you. So the Masters was this week, and shocker, the favorite won and ran away with it near the end of it. It was close for a bit. There was some drama going into Sunday, but Scheffler just once again showed why he's that good.
Yeah, I picked him early, but it wasn't him that led after the Thursday. After that one, Bryson DeChambeau
It's
had
Thursday. Nobody cares who leads on Thursday.
Bryson, but what he did, I mean, he fell down. He struggled, but Thursday and Friday were a lot of win challenged in that one. Lots of things happening with that one. 2-hour late start on Thursday, and so a lot of guys had to come out and start Friday morning and then roll straight into their Friday matches. But yeah, like you said, Scotty Scheffler came out on Friday and just took over, and every time that somebody got close to him, he would find another birdie, and he struggled a little bit hitting fairways a few times, especially on Saturday or Sunday. Saw him in the sand traps a couple of times, so crazy to see that. So this is his second Masters in 2 years, and I was impressed with the kid that was trying to catch him, and that was Ludwig Aberg. He's going to be a big name coming out here very soon. This was his first ever major, and he finished second at 7 under. But also hats off to Max Homa, Tommy Fleetwood, Colin Morikawa, as they both took 4th place. I saw this stat yesterday, and tell me what you think about this one. Scotty Scheffler has won now 3 tournaments in the past about 8 weeks or so in all of it. But in the past 35 days, Scotty Scheffler has made $12.6 million, which equates to roughly $360,000 a day.
Or one day of Otani's Booker before he got caught.
Exactly. But just crazy to think of what this guy's doing. So his career stats are going through the roof, and he's only played 120 events, already has 9 wins. I throw this out at you because you did pick Tiger Woods. Tiger does make the cut.
Why not?
Does make the cut, but then finishes dead last after the cut at plus 16. He was plus 10 on Saturday. Could Scotty Scheffler be that next Tiger Woods, or are we ever going to see anybody like Tiger in his heyday?
He's playing at the perfect time to try to be the next Tiger. Why? Because half of the good competition plays for the Saudi group. The level of competition is not what Tiger Woods created. Like Tiger Woods came on the scene in an era where there was an old guard for sure. I mean, there were some fantastic golfers in the 90s, but they were getting up there in age. And he was really kind of that first athletic young golfer that just, stormed the scene and created this new rise of popularity in golf. He came into the perfect time. Not to say he wasn't the best golfer in the world, because he was, but he came in at a time where there was a transition in golf. And we saw as he got older, all these young kids that were watching Tiger Woods in the early 2000s, late 1990s, started to become pros and really started to test Tiger Woods. And then his body broke down, and it was a really big struggle to see who was going to be that top guy. That's why golf was so much fun for those years, because every major there was 20 people you could really pick to possibly win the major and not be surprised on. But now everyone's getting split up and everyone's doing all these different things. And yes, they do come together for some of these majors, but when you're trying to rack up tournament wins, like if the second, fifth, and eighth best golfers in the world are not playing even in your league anymore, let alone the tournaments that you decide to play, it's going to be easier for him to rack up, win totals for sure. And then in the majors, he continues to show that, he's at the top of his game right now. And I do think he's going to put up multiple majors and continue to work his way up the all-time list. Will he get up to Tiger numbers? Who knows? Because those are just insane. But with LIV and PGA still not figuring out how to make that merger happen, I wouldn't be shocked if somebody like a Scottie Scheffler, who is fantastic, really took advantage.
Yeah, and you like you said, you look at Tiger's numbers and they are astounding. 82 wins in his career, where he started in '96. But the one big thing, Scottie Scheffler has not won overseas yet. So that's going to be a big thing when they head over to the Open. I think he still is going to be a huge favorite at one of these tournaments, again, across the river and across the pond.
The big river. It's a very big river.
The big one. But I think until he can win one of those championships where it's on a different course, where constantly dealing with wind and rain and stuff, it's going to be a challenge. But with that being said, and I, you put it in the notes, how many majors do you think that Scottie Scheffler ends up winning now that this is number 2 major here?
9. Once he hits 9, he will retire. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm making up numbers, but 9 sounds right. Can't give him double figures just yet, but I'll give him 7 more. Why not?
I'd love to see him try to get to the hat. I'd love to see him win all of them, but this kid, this Texas Longhorn, what he is doing right now and how he hits, and I love the way he finishes the ball. That back leg is already up off the ground as he's finishing his downward swing. It's crazy. We all have our little nicks of how we swing the club. It's just weird to watch his finish in that one. So
yeah, I mean, obviously neither of us are good golfers by any means, but we bowl, and I try to tell people all the time when they ask me for advice, I go, you just find the style of approach that works for you, that makes the ball roll right. Like, I'm not going to work on a quirk of your swing if you're scoring well, because obviously you figured out what feels comfortable for you. And that's exactly what Scottie Scheffler has done with his golf swing, and more power to him. One question that I saw when watching Rich Eisen earlier this week is, I know you're still a really big golf fan. I've kind of fallen off over the last couple of years with all the other drama going on and just everything else that goes on. Like, I'll turn it on, but it's not in the front of my mind by any means. But for somebody that's really into golf, and we did do the best golf courses of all time for bad brackets, and Augusta ended up winning. So everyone is very focused in on the Masters. But what's the better Sunday as a sports fan? Masters Sunday or Super Bowl Sunday?
So I saw this in your notes, and please oblige me with my description of this, but we're talking something that I explained to my math team and all that too. We're talking about hamburgers to steak. They're both ground meat. They're both beef, but they're not the same thing. And it's the
They're
same
both
as
Sunday. It's the
There's
same day.
It's apples and oranges. I mean, I like fruit. I like
No,
apples. I
pick
like
one.
oranges. You can't. You
Pick
can't.
one.
You can't.
Pick
Yeah, I
one.
mean, I I
If for
think for me,
whatever, how about this? If for whatever reason the NFL ended up with like a 30-week schedule and really just ran their team or their players into the ground, and the Super Bowl and the Masters ended up on the same weekend, what one are you watching?
I love my football, but I think Master Sunday is just something totally different because it takes 3 other days to get there, unlike for playoffs, it takes 4 other weeks to get there.
Yeah, what
You
are you
got a little
talking
bit more
about?
time.
It
You
only
got
takes
more times off.
3 days compared to just avoiding the question. I don't like.
Apples and oranges, they're two different things.
Well, we'll find out when we do the best fruits episode of Back Brackets. So don't worry about it. It's coming. It'll happen. Let's get into the sports we don't normally talk about. Give them some love. Of course, Caitlin Clark went #1 in the WNBA draft to the Indiana Fever, who are selling out left and right. The ticket prices when they come to town, are so much higher than when other teams come to town now because everyone wants to check out Caitlin Clark. So that was no surprise. Anything else like jump out at you? I know a Gonzaga player went pretty early in this draft. I know Stephen Wiebe, who writes for the Lewiston Tribune, used to write for a newspaper up in Alaska. He covered one of the players that got drafted when she played there in high school. So it was cool for him to see somebody that he covered years ago make it into the pros. But what did you notice from everything that got put out there for the WNBA?
I think there was a couple other names that stuck out to me as where they were going to do, and one was the Camila Codorso from South Carolina. She's being taken by Chicago to go and play for the Sky. She is going to be one of those dominant players there. The other one is Angel Reese from LSU, I think, and she'll be joining Camilla in Chicago too. I think those two names stuck out very big. You look also the bottom three of the bottom four draft picks come from overseas. You've got two from France and one from Australia. So it's interesting to see in that, especially where it's a 12 round draft or 12 pick first round in that, and how many trades and shuffling around with picks overall. So, but yeah, you said it. Gonzaga had a couple of girls go in that one with Maxwell and Drong, but no, I'm trying to Legler, who was at WSU, not even a suggestion in that pick. So kind of shocking to see how some of these Pac-12 girls, or if they will get a chance to play other than the girl Brink from Stanford.
Yeah, it's again, there's 12 teams in this thing, so
Mm-hmm.
it's even a smaller pool to get into the WNBA than it is to get into the NBA. So none of that stuff surprises me at all. Obviously, everybody was really just tuned in for the Caitlin Clark stuff. If she sticks with the WNBA and doesn't go off to the big three, which as a joke, but if she ends up in the WNBA, what do they need to do to not only take this rating boost that they're going to get early on in the season, but how can they use that momentum to really get their league to that next level popularity wise?
I think they've got to merchandise her as much as possible, but they've got to get her out in front of other things, other businesses, marketing, and that kind of stuff. And, you know, not make it like a traveling road show, but get her out in front of the public eye just as much as she was now. Keep her there. And Brian just commented here. Yeah, there. Okay. Yeah.
Can you say that name, Robert?
Bella Murakatiti. Murakati. Yeah.
That's
He'll,
one I need a pronunciation guide for sure.
I guarantee you he'll give us that spelled
Oh yeah,
phonetically any
I agree.
second.
For sure. It'll be really interesting. Hopefully, they are able to capitalize on it. You saw the women's college basketball tournament outrate the men's tournament because of Caitlin Clark. You need stars in these sports to really start getting your sport to the next level. Hopefully, Caitlin Clark can do that for the WNBA, and they can start, getting the popularity that they deserve. They play in the summer. Their only competition is Major League Baseball, and especially once the NBA playoffs and stuff get done. So hopefully, more people will start watching that
Watching.
sport. I don't really watch basketball, men or women, so you're not going to get me. But there you go. Speaking of the NBA, they're currently playing their whatever they're playing games, right? That's what those
Yep.
things are called. Nobody,
The,
some people care.
the
I
West is
do.
playing. Yep.
Yeah, the West is tonight. I do like the play-in games because of the way they have it structured. So 7 and 8 are playing right now. The winner becomes the 7 seed. The loser plays the winner of the 9-10 game to then be the 8 seed. So there's different chances and there's like reasons to really try throughout the different seedings. It used to, I mean, NBA got to the point where home court advantage to me just has completely disappeared. People can disagree with me, and I'm sure there's stats that disprove me. But there's been so many teams that like I don't care if I'm the 2 seed or the 7 seed. Like as long as I'm in the playoffs and my stars are healthy, that's all that matters. But now with the way it's structured, the 1 through 6, you're in that same
Mm-hmm.
boat, but you're trying to keep yourself out from 7. And if you're trying to sneak in there, you have a couple extra spaces to work with. Obviously, there's teams that will try to tank themselves out of these play-in games to get into the lottery and hopefully have a better draft pick. They're still tanking in the NBA by far. But I do like this format, and you get fun games now where the Lakers are up by 4 against the Pelicans in the 7-8 game. You have the Warriors and Kings and the next game. I'm rooting for the Pelicans to win this first game and the Warriors to win next one. So it's Lakers or Warriors. Only one of them can make it. I think that would be a great ratings boost if that happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought about this a lot over the last couple of days as getting ready to type things in. It's just turned so much different. How the game has changed. Everybody still tries to compare uh, LeBron to Kobe to Wilt to Michael. I mean, everybody played in a different time, and I think that's the bad thing that for me is watching what our local high schools do, our local colleges do. They still play defense, and I love watching a good defensive battle
Mm-hmm.
game, and that's just me. I can't sit down for more than just a couple minutes watching basically them throw the ball all the way up and nobody defend them and take it straight to the rack every
Yeah.
time.
It,
So
it obviously does change now that we've got into the postseason time, and I'll check out some of these games a bit more, especially because my New York Knicks are a 2 seed somehow. I maybe they'll finally win a championship. Probably not. Maybe they'll get me invested here in the playoffs just to let me down like they used to do in the '90s all the time. We'll see. But Boston's the 1 seed in the East. Oklahoma City is the 1 seed in the West. Who do you got going to the conference championship game, sir?
it scares me a little bit that with the research and stuff I looked at today, Giannis might not play in this opening couple of games, which kind of will be a little triggering. But Oklahoma City has just seemed to be the one on the west side. I'm going to take Oklahoma City, and I think I'm gonna take your Knicks.
Well, that's not the question I asked. I
Oh,
said,
I
who's
thought
going
you
to
said.
make the conference championships?
Oh yeah, I thought you put them together. Sorry, I would think it's probably gonna be. I'm gonna say New York and Milwaukee,
So you're
and
not
then
worried about Giannis.
no, I think he'll make it. He'll make it back, and I think Oklahoma. And let's go. like I said, I haven't followed them. Let's go with the Suns. Suns has done well. Let's see those two go at it.
Sure. Let's go with it. I'll say Boston and the Knicks. Just bring back that old rivalry in the Eastern Conference Finals. That would be a lot of fun. And give me Denver and somebody. I don't know. Dallas. Let's go Dallas. Denver and Dallas. That's my expert opinion there. The NHL also is getting ready to start their playoffs. The regular season ends on Thursday. The 8 teams in the West are all locked in. Dallas, Winnipeg, Colorado, Vancouver, Edmonton, Kings are in there, Predators are in there, Vegas is there. I probably agree. Again, I don't watch, but my buddy Jimmy, who's a big Boston fan, has been very excited about that team. But the 8 in the West are all locked in. The Seattle Kraken do not make the postseason. But as of this moment, the 8 teams are now locked in the East. And I've been kind of keeping an eye on the score bug over to my left as we've been talking, and it looked like it was very stressful for some fans of a couple of teams. But Boston was your top seed in the East. You have Florida, Toronto, the Rangers, the Hurricanes, the Islanders, and the Lightning all in. And you still had 4 teams that had a chance to get that last playoff spot. They all had 1 game left. I'm disappointed they don't have it set up where they all play at the same time, but now it doesn't matter. Washington will be your last team to make it into the playoffs. If they played Philadelphia, who also had a chance to make the playoffs with a win and a lot of help. But the Capitals, with 3 minutes to go in their game, score a goal, and they beat the Flyers 2-1. So they will get the 8 seed. Detroit, if they would have won and Washington would have lost, Detroit would have made it, and Detroit went to a shootout while the Capitals game was finishing up. And Detroit won that game, but it doesn't matter anymore. I'm not going to ask you who do you think is going to make the Stanley Cup Finals, because I've watched even less of hockey than I have watched of the NBA, and it would be pointless. Go, I don't know, Canucks and Hurricanes.
Yeah.
We'll lock it in. Super important, though. The Kraken are getting ready to go into overtime against the Jets. Not my Jets, the other Jets. And if Seattle wins that game, they'll finish at 500. They'll be, I don't know how percentages works, but they'll have 34 wins, 34 losses, and 13 overtime losses. So do those count as, I don't know how those count anymore. So is that 500? Is that not 500? Because technically it's still a loss, but you get 1 point and you get 2 for anybody out there that understands hockey scoring and can educate this dummy. Let me know. The NFL draft 9 days away. Again, next week we will probably do one more mock draft for you, mostly because it fills a lot of time, but because it's our last chance to really talk about it. We're not going to do a live stream like we've done in years past. Our schedules are just too busy right now. But with the mock draft coming next week, we're just going to focus on homerism, something we just never do on the show. We never talk homerism at all. But you are a Baltimore Ravens fan. Mm-hmm. You have to wait all the way to pick 30. Once you wake up from falling asleep watching the draft and you see what your team has done in that first round, what do you hope to see?
I'm going to tell you straight up, as much as we have lost defensively, I think that's where they have to go, losing Queen, losing a few of those other guys, even though that they have signed some guys back. We always are in need of some help on the in the cornerback position. And so for me, I'm thinking they've got to go. Let me rephrase that. If we can see like Darius Robinson from Missouri, a defensive lineman, drop down, that would be a great pick there. I think it's got to be either defensive line or it's got to be defensive back, and the name, and I laughed at it a couple of weeks ago when we did it before. A name that keeps popping up on the radar for the Baltimore Ravens is
Kool-Aid?
one Kool-Aid
Yeah.
McKinstry. Can you imagine? I find me a Kool-Aid jersey if this happens.
Only if you run through a wall. My New York Jets have the number 10 pick, and we said months ago that I absolutely positively had to be offensive linemen. They have picked up 3 offensive linemen through free agency and trades, 2 of them from Baltimore Ravens, 1 from the Dallas Cowboys as well. But some of them are old, they have injury history. So I still think that they need to go offensive line. If they get Brock Bowers, the big tight end that everyone thinks could be a game changer in the league, will I be mad? Not really, but we all had that same feeling about one Kyle Pitts. And Zach Swan, who's in the comments, will let you know how that has worked out for his Falcons so far. So I don't know if it would work out or not. My biggest hope is that only Joe Alt has been taken from the offensive line group through the first 9 picks, which a lot of mock drafts agree with. And the Jets trade down a few spots, hopefully get a second round pick in the deal because they don't have a second rounder due to the Aaron Rodgers trade, and just create some more depth that way. Because at that point, a couple of offensive linemen will still go off the board, but there's like 5 or 6 that are going between 8 and 20, and you just take the best available, then get yourself a little draft capital as well. If things implode, then maybe Brock Bowers is still there at that point. A lot of different options, but with some of those other teams really trying to get quarterbacks, I hope that the Jets trade down 4, 5, 6 spots. I'm looking at, the Raiders, Saints, Colts-ish area would be fantastic. Just go down a little bit and make some moves. Or you can fleece the Seahawks at 16 again. That'd be great. So it'll be interesting. So yeah, we'll do one more mock draft next week, really break down some of these players, give you some more in-depth stuff, and get going there. All right. Ready to talk some Major League Baseball?
I think so.
You had the weirdest notes.
Well,
Anyways, I was waiting. Robert's over here typing something, and I was waiting to see what it was, and then it was nothing. All the homers for the Baltimore Orioles. We'll talk about them in a second. But first, we got to ask the biggest question of them all. Robert Hagen. Are you a jinx, sir? Mike Greenberg has the kiss of death. He has had that famously for years and years and years. However, we brought it up a lot last year. You took the St. Louis Cardinals to win the World Series last year. They finished where?
Dead last in their division.
Dead last. You then took Spencer Strider to be your NL Cy Young Award winner. And what happened to his elbow?
He heard it. He's got boo-boo.
It went pop. Are you a curse? Are you the curse? Are you worse than me?
Am I the curse of the Bambino, or
are you the curse of the R&R Sports Report?
I must be, because every time we've talked about something like this, it has turned into biting me in the backside and proving that I can't pick the right winner whatsoever. So I feel bad. Strider, I think had how many innings total in the year, and is already shut down, already going to have surgery.
Yeah, not enough to qualify for the Cy Young Award, unfortunately. No. Would you like to tell
comeback player of the year?
Would you like to tell friend of the show and commenter Denny Grubb who you picked to win the World Series this year?
Wasn't it? It was. For me, if I remember right, I took the Baltimore Orioles defeating Seattle in it, and I think I ended up saying Baltimore was going to win. So
Yes, you
hopefully,
did. I'm looking at it right now, and you have the Baltimore Orioles defeating the Atlanta Braves in the World Series. So if things fall apart, Denny, it's not my fault. It's his fault.
blame me.
Speaking of the Orioles, I think we talked about it last week. They brought up Jackson Holiday, but man, that young team, I hate to say it, is so much fun. I watch them from time to time. How about the Milkman? What's his name? First name Craig Colton. Sorry, Colton Cowser, who has just been lights out. He wasn't even starting to start this year. Looked like he was going to be somebody that got dropped down because of Jackson Holiday. How about batting 405, 17 hits, 15 RBIs on just 42 at bats, 4 home runs, and 2 steals for Colton Cowser. Yeah, Holiday not off to the best start just yet, but Cowser's been a lot of fun, and Baltimore is quickly catching the Yankees, who I believe just lost. Where the hell did their score go? There it is. They have not just lost yet. I may have to leave for a minute and watch the rest of this Yankee game. They have the tying run at second with 1 out. So you talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to go watch this.
For me, I think a couple of players that have stuck out so far early in the season, and maybe it's because he's got a long-term deal done, but Will Smith is playing some great ball in Dodger blue. Batting right at 369, 15 RBIs, and the other name that is doing quite well is Marcell Ozuna. So,
Mm-hmm.
These two guys, what they're putting up offensively right now is just crazy stats.
Yeah, there's been a lot of players that have been off to red hot starts. We've not done player of the week just yet. We might start that here in a week or two as we start losing other sports to talk about, and as LC stuff starts to wind down, high school stuff winds down, and this basically becomes a baseball podcast for 2 months. We'll start adding in some of those other things we would bring up during the summer. But yeah, there's a lot of players that are out there that are red hot. One of them being Michael Busch for the Chicago Cubs, who has homered in 5 straight games so far. His game just got underway. As there's an out. Okay. Yankees are down by 1. Tying runs at 90 feet away, but it was a ground out, so they're also 1 out away. Michael Busch flew out his first at bat as the Cubs are taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. That one in the bottom of the second inning. Really cool for Busch, who was acquired from the Dodgers, because where was he ever going to play for Los Angeles with all of the other fantastic players that they have? Again, 5 straight home runs. He is tied for the team record for most consecutive home runs in a row. Christopher Morel had 5 in a row last year. Of course, Sammy Sosa back in 98, Ryan Sandberg in 1989, and Hack Wilson all the way back in the year Robert Hagen was born, 1928.
No, I'm not that old. Come on now.
No,
Be
okay.
nice.
That was a bit too far. And the Yankees lose 5-4. Near comeback. We'll take it. That's 3-game losing streak, though. I don't like the feeling of that. 6 people have hit in 6 straight games, 33 different times in Major League Baseball history. But trivia question for you, Mr. Robert Hagen. And trivia question for Denny Grubb and Zach and whoever else is listening that would love to answer. But who are the 3 players to have hit a home run in 8 consecutive games?
3 players have hit in 8 consecutive. The ones that always stuck out to me were the ones that had all the home runs in a game. I'm going to say Mark McGuire's got to be one of them.
He is not. While you think of some names, and we let Denny and anyone else that would like to answer as well. Those that have 7 straight games with a home run, Mike Trout did it in 2022. Joey Votto did it in 2021. Kendrys Morales in 2018. Kevin Mench, of all people, in 2006. Barry Bonds has done it 7 straight. That was in 2004. Jim Thome in 2002. And that's it. Griffey is one. He is the latest to do it. He did it between July 20th and 28th in 1993. Again, that is the latest to do it.
Okay, so that rules out the name that I was going to say, because I was going to say maybe Frank Thomas, but that rules that out.
Yeah, Frank played around there, but Denny got another man.
So one more.
Johnny Baseball himself, July 8th through the 18th in 1987.
How about I'm going to go way back.
Mm-hmm. You'll never get this one. I will not say Denny will not get it, because Denny is insane with some of these trivia questions, but you are not going to get it.
I was going to say the Say Hey Kid, but I'm probably wrong.
No, it's not him. How about Dale Long? Never heard of him. May 19th to the 28th in 1956. He told the Chicago Tribune that year, or he told it in 1986, I guess. So a year before Don Mattingly tied him, but he goes, someday somebody will break it and they'll forget me. It's there to be broken. They break them all the time. Nobody's broken your record. They've only tied it, and we still forgot you, Dale Long. I apologize. But there you go. Those are your 3 that have hit 8 in a row. We'll see if Michael Busch can continue his streak and get up there as well. Somebody on his own streak is Angel Hernandez, who is on his 743rd consecutive game with a horrible call, or 2, or 3, or who knows.
3.
How in the world does Angel Hernandez still have a job?
What I want to know is, aren't these guys evaluated every year and gone through and them worked with during the off season? That's what I'd like to know. It's if it's that bad that you're missing calls 4 to 5 inches off the plate.
6 inches.
Well, one of the ones I saw, I think it was 4.58 inches off.
Yeah, that wasn't even his worst one.
No, but I just, you would think that Major League Baseball would make sure these guys are going through training or doing something. This stuff is what he's doing. What he's doing has to be, it's just giving and adding to the fire of when are we going to see cameras and that doing all of the balls and strike calls.
Very, very soon. They're working on it in AAA. They're doing the whole tennis replay system, where you throw a pitch and either the pitcher or the batter or the catcher tap their hat or their helmet. And I don't even want to know how much Hernandez makes.
I don't either.
Not even $1 per mistake, though. That's for sure. Whatever his amount is. But yeah, it takes like 5 seconds to do. You only have so many challenges that you're allowed to have throughout a game, or at least mistakes that you can have where you challenge it and you don't get it. So they're working on it in AAA. Could be up here by next year. We'll see how things go. But it's not even balls and strikes that Angel Hernandez is missing. I talked about it a week or 2 ago with the play with Gleyber Torres, where the pitcher stepped off the rubber, stepped right back on and threw a quick pitch. And Angel Hernandez called strike 3 on a pitch that was 3 inches over the strike zone, by the way, even though the pitch was illegal. And he just refused. That's what drives me nuts about Angel Hernandez. All I've heard is he's a really nice guy off the field. But at some point, like, if you make a mistake, own up to your mistake. Go, no, I missed that one. But he takes it upon himself to argue. And Aaron Boone said after the game, like Volpe was getting, or not Volpe, but it was Luis Heel was the pitcher, I believe, that day, and he ended up walking in a run and was showing frustration on the mound. And Michael Kay in the broadcast basically went, "You cannot do that with Angel Hernandez because all he's going to do is shrink the strike zone even more because he's a bitter old man who just cannot have anybody tell him he's wrong. Like he can't be wrong about anything." What I love about other umpires and what I liked about what we saw, at Harris Field this weekend was, did they get every call right? Probably not. Like, was every strike in the strike zone? Probably not. But there were two calls in that game that were overturned once they got together and basically went, you know what? From my vantage point, I had this, but you've seen it like this. I'm going to go with you. Maybe I missed it, and they overturned it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would like to see is Angel Hernandez go, you know what? I missed it. You're right. But no, he will never in his life do that.
I just read it here a second ago. I found it. Major League. He is in his 30th season as he started in 1993. And so few all-star, three all-star games, a few division series, but that's got to start adding up to when is he forced to walk away, or they've got to do something. They have to.
We can only hope. One person that did walk away that I'm very sad to see, though it's been a long time coming because he's 85 years old. So enjoy your very short retirement, Mr. John Sterling. He was the radio voice for your New York Yankees. For those that are not Yankee fans, that's okay. You've heard this man's voice before. He's the guy that always has the goofy home run calls. He's the one that anytime somebody signs with the Yankees or gets traded to the Yankees, everyone goes, what is his home run call going to be? And John Sterling always had some clever ones to go with it. He added to it. He would sing for some of their home run calls. Very iconic voice for the New York Yankees. He started calling games for them in 1989. He called over 5,400 regular season games, over 200 playoff games, and he was there for 5 of the World Series. And yes, the Yankees win, but they do lose tonight without John Sterling on the call.
So is he planning to go elsewhere, or is he?
No, he is retired.
Taking and finishing up.
He's done. Effective immediately, he's done. He will not call any more games. He was stepping back more and more starting either last year or the year before, as again, he's in his 80s.
Mm-hmm,
so, I mean, it definitely takes his toll on him. He's missed some calls for sure as he's gotten up there in age. There's been times where he's called it a home run and it was caught. So, I mean, it's definitely been there, but a very iconic career for John Sterling. Just wanted to bring that up. And I will miss his fantastic calls that he has that I'm afraid to play here because we'll get copyright struck and the videos will go down.
So you look at that, and I know we always bounce off a task here, but I could easily put his voice in the baseball realm, easily top 5 announcers to ever do it. That voice sticks in my head that I hear all the time. And that he is synonymous to the game and to that Yankees organization. The other one is I'm trying to remember now. He is doing stuff for the Diamondbacks. He did Sunday Night Baseball. Oh my God. Why am I drawing I'm drawing a huge blank. Oh, now I got to look it up.
Way to go.
I have to look it up.
While you look that up, let me once again pull up the scores real quick. We'll update them. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter show, which is totally fine because I got other things to do today. So I am not one that minds.
John Miller. John Miller is one of those voices that sticks. I could say Dave Niehaus because he's that, but John Miller is one of those voices that just sticks with you like so did Sterling.
Finals now. Toronto did beat the Yankees 5-4, so the Yankees have lost 3 straight. They dropped to 12-6. Like I said, Mets beat the Pirates 3-1. Marlins over the Giants 6-3. Phillies over the Rockies 5-0. Orioles crushed the Twins 11-3. Tigers over the Rangers 4-2. Those are your finals. They're still playing in Tampa Bay, bottom of the 13th inning. Angels with the 6-5 lead, but of course that Ghost Runner dude is still over there at second for the Rays as they start the bottom of the inning. Top of the 10th inning, Guardians over the Red Sox 7-6. They're in the bottom of the 8th. Padres still with a 6-2 lead. Braves have doubled up their lead against the Astros into the 8th inning. They're up 2-0. Scoreless in Seattle between the Reds and Marlins. Cubs and Diamondbacks are tied at 1. Missed the Yankees score. Sucks for you. I will say it one more time if you guarantee me that you're going to pick me in the sports-related draft here in a minute. And that is my caveat. Top of the 3rd inning in Oakland, Cardinals and Athletics are tied at 1, and Nationals and Dodgers scoreless in the top of the 1st inning. Nationals have had 3 hits and no runs, and they only have runners at 1st and 3rd. That's national baseball for you, I guess.
Yeah. It's going to be
Not what I wanted.
crazy.
All right. Let's get before we get into the sports related draft, let's do some power rankings. What do you got?
For me, the only change that I am making is in the top 2 spots. The rest of the teams are going to stay put right where they're at. So Pittsburgh 3, Atlanta 4, Baltimore 5. I am switching the top 2, sir. Write this down. April 16th, 2024. Robert Hagan has the New York Yankees number 1 in the power rankings over the LA Dodgers.
You jinx you. You're jinxing my team. That's what you're doing, and I don't like it. Take them out of your top spot. They have not won a game since you put them as number 1 in your power rankings.
And I only did that today, so.
Yeah, no, you're 0-1. I do not have the Yankees number 1 in my power rankings. My top 3 stay the same. Dodgers 1, Yankees 2, Braves 3. I thought about moving the Braves up, but I'm still waiting to see what their pitching staff does, though they have done well so far. But most likely, the way things are looking, good chance Atlanta will move up next week. I do move Baltimore back up from 5 to 4. I like that young team is just doing all sorts of fantastic work. The Rangers have been struggling as of late. They're only 9-9. So I bumped them out of my top 5, and I will put the Kansas City Royals of all teams. How about 11-6 to start the year? They've won 8 of their last 10, plus 39 run differential, best in the American League. And an AL Central that's wide open. I picked the Tigers, but Royals can definitely make it very interesting in that division. So that's my top 5. Before we get into the sports-related draft, one other thing. O.J. Simpson passed away. It just makes me remember, obviously his playing career was before me. So I don't really remember him on the field as much as other people. All I can think about is the murder trial and everything that went on there. My mom has always been into the murder trial stuff. I know she watched this a ton. I know we watched the verdicts in class. I want to say I was in 5th or 6th grade when that went down. I remember the Bronco chase that was all over TV. I know it well because my Knicks were in the NBA championship against the Houston Rockets, and they wouldn't show the damn game because we had to watch O.J. Simpson drive. ESPN has, it's one of my favorite 30 for 30s. It's May something, whenever all of that went down, June something, whatever that day was, because you had World Cup starting and it was in the United States. You had the U.S. Open going on. You had Knicks and Rockets game 6. All this stuff was going on, and O.J. Simpson just overtook everything. So that's all I'm going to remember from him.
Yeah, it one of the best rushers for the Buffalo Bills, but yeah, I mean, very overshadowed by everything else that had happened late in his life with his late wife and Goldman and all that. So, yeah, I even had somebody ask me, "Are we sure that he actually passed away?" That has been brought to my attention a
What
couple
that
times.
happens with so many people.
Mhm.
What is the point of faking it 20 years later, 30
Yep.
years later? I don't get it.
Don't either.
By the way, the Lakers beat the Pelicans, so my plan of having the Lakers and Warriors face off is already poo-pooed. It's disappointing. All right, now let's get into it. Sports related draft time, sir. It's your turn to pick the topic.
You know, I was looking at it being tax day yesterday. You kind of laughed at me, so I changed things up today, and I
Well,
noticed.
I only laughed at you because you did the same thing we've done before.
Well,
But that's all right.
a version,
And
yeah.
I'm pretty sure we did it for tax time last year. But go ahead.
What? So I did look, and I thought, oh, happy birthday, Coach! Happy birthday, 72nd birthday to Coach Bill Belichick, and hope he stays retired and stays out of the coaching. But with that being said, so let's look that direction. How about the best NFL? Let's talk a little football. We got to talk the best NFL head coach of all times. I picked the topic, and I have this sneaking suspicion that you may win. I think it boils down, sir, to our third pick each of who wins this one, yay or nay. And knowing who you took and who I took, I myself have to lean just the pendulum is leaning just if you look just ever so slightly your direction. With that being said, you sir
All
have
the
the
way.
first pick.
Also, a bonus points and bonus votes, please, for my daughter's drawing, which I've not brought up yet. I always make fun of Addie for only, not taking up the entire whiteboard, and she made me pay. This is going to be a nightmare to erase for the next show, but she did a wonderful job.
I want to know what it looks like. A cat face mask of a egg is what I think it is. It might be an egg with a cat mask.
I'm Haley. If you're watching right now, ask Addie again. She gave me the title of this picture, and I have since forgot. It is very detailed, but I want to make sure I get it correct. So hopefully Haley is listening upstairs and she can answer that question for me. But bonus points because it's a beautiful drawing. All right. Yeah, it's Bill Belichick's birthday. You can't say anything but Bill Belichick. He's the GOAT. And I hate to say it as a Jets fan. He's ruined many seasons that he ruined every season that the Jets did not ruin themselves. Immigrant Bunny going through razor wire. I like it. That's a good title for it too. But 8 Super Bowl wins as a coach, 6 of them as the head coach. He's been to 12 Super Bowls. He coached under Bill Parcells all those times. He was the head coach of the New York Jets for a day. I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. No, he's the GOAT. He's done so much and really created a dynasty with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. So he's my first pick.
Yeah, he has to be that just because of the how many times he has made it to the Super Bowl. But sir, my pick, and I'm going to ask you this question: who is the Super Bowl trophy named after?
Only because he started before Bill Parcells or Bill Belichick.
I am taking hands down. It has to be the number 2 guy. Yes, I'm going to say Bill Belichick number 1. But I'm going to take Vince Lombardi as what he did in 10 short years coaching, 9 of which were with the Green Bay Packers. He had 1 season there in Washington. I think one of the highest winning percentages ever in the game. Yes, you look at how many games total he did: 96, 34, and 7. Had a 738 win percentage, 3 NFL championships, and then 2 Super Bowl championships after the Super Bowl and the merger and all that. So Hall of Fame coach, 3-time coach of the year. So I am going with Vince Lombardi with my first pick. Uh-oh.
Officially, this picture's name from the artist herself is Cat Apple Swirly Butt with a Bag. There you go.
I still think it's a cat mask around an egg
Well, it's a cat butt.
in
Is what I read.
barbed wire. I like
Yeah,
I like
I like the
Danny
barbed wire part. That's really good. My second pick, Danny Grubb nailed it. One,
these
Don Shula. He's just doing this so he can say he won. Don Shula had with obviously the most regular season wins as a coach, most overall wins as a coach at 347. Absolutely fantastic coach with the Miami Dolphins for 25 years, somewhere in there from the 70s to mid 90s. NFL champion in 68, two-time Super Bowl champion as well. He's one of the best coaches of all time. Just shocking that he only won 2 Super Bowls as a coach, 7 and 8. He and Dan Marino just could not get over the hump and bring home a Lombardi as well. But Don Shula, fantastic.
I think he's reading our minds because he
Mhm.
even took my second pick, and that is George Halas. And what this guy did, and 40 years coaching, and go ahead with the old jokes there, sir. As he started coaching in 1920, he had all of his seasons. The 40 years was with the Chicago Bears. A win percentage of 6.682, 318 wins, 6-time NFL champion, a Hall of Famer, 2-time Coach of the Year. But if you want a long guy that was longevity with the same organization, it has to be George Halas.
Or my pick, Chuck Noll. The ultimate longevity team in the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have had 3 head coaches since 1969. Chuck Noll started it from 1969 to 1991. He won 4 Super Bowls in a 6-year span. The dude was absolutely fantastic. Steel Curtain dominated the National Football League back when Robert was a young lad. Nearly 200 wins in the regular season, add in 16 more postseason wins. Chuck Noll is my third pick.
And this next one, I went back and forth and looked at both of these numbers between these two guys, and I'm going with Joe Gibbs just barely over Bill Walsh, and I'll get to a reason why of that. But Joe Gibbs, 16 years for the Washington Redskins, went 154 and 94, 3-time Super Bowl champ, 4-time NFC champ, Hall of Famer, 2-time Coach of the Year. But the one that put it over the edge for me was looking at his coaching tree who has coached underneath him
Doesn't matter.
and went
Coaching
on.
trees don't make you a good coach.
I'm going to say it anyway. You got Steve Spagnuolo, you've got Steve Wilkes, you've got Arthur Smith that has come out of this, and a great. As much as I disagree with his tactics, sometimes he's still a decent defensive coach, and that is Greg Williams. So I went with Joe Gibbs just over Bill Walsh.
Joe Gibbs to me is more of a NASCAR owner than a NFL head coach. That's just my age. One of the better NASCAR owners right now. That is for sure. So let us know in the comments down below who won this week's sports related draft. Danny, don't vote for yourself. I went Bill Belichick, Don Shula, and Chuck Noll. Robert went Vince Lombardi, George Halas, and Joe Gibbs. While we wait for those results, let's just hop right into Aussie Rules Football. Close out this show a bit early. Give myself a little bit of time to get some stuff done before I record bad brackets here in about a half hour or so. It sucks being a Hawthorne Hawks fan anymore. Like, I can't even turn on a game thinking that they're going to have a chance to win. Last week, they had a great fourth quarter. I nearly made the ridiculous comeback and the big upset. This week, they lose by 50.
Yeah. Two really, really. I like that already. I sure appreciate. Thank you. Two big, two teams right now still winless. Yes, you're Hawthorne Hawks, but you've got a few percentage points over the Roos and Harry's North Melbourne. But you look at it, there was 3 close games this week. GWS with the 1-point win over St. Kilda. Adelaide knocked off Carlton, who Carlton has been playing quite well. 2-point game, and then a 3-point game. Port Adelaide knocking off Fremantle by 3. But sir, let's bring up the 2 blowouts, and one of which your team. I like that. What?
I don't believe it.
Well, believe it. She voted for me, and yes, as you can see, Haley, look right over my shoulder. There is that beautiful clock that you gifted me. Thank you very much. And then you look at Geelong. Geelong blew out North Melbourne by 75 points. So big win there for Geelong. Geelong now 5-0 on the season, also along with GWS. So, sir, there's some good games on this week.
I don't see Hawthorne on TV.
No, Hawthorne. So one of you is going to get a win this week. I'm excited about that. Yes.
Are you sure? Are you sure one of us is going to get a win? Guys, Lombardi's not the best just because his name is on a damn trophy, just because he's old. Guys, come on. Today sucks.
This week, AFL 4
This is me right now.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Oh, now I got to find
that. Anyway, as you're
they don't have that sound bit. What a horrible soundboard. Go ahead.
As you're licking your wounds here, sir. 4 games on the slate for AFL this week. Adelaide and Essendon, Collingwood, Port Adelaide, and Carlton, GWS, all on Friday. Collingwood, Port Adelaide at 8:30, a great game time for you to check out that on FS1. And then one of the number 1's teams, GWS on Carlton on FS2.
He's asking where we put Orioles in the power rankings. I had them higher. Robert jinxed your team to start the year.
Oh, I got your team. And if you want to watch the Geelong Cats, make sure you record it. But they are playing on Saturday against Brisbane on FS2, 2:30 a.m. Pacific time.
I can't find it at this point. I was trying to find the Iconics thing. It's a soundboard. Nobody's made one that I can find. So whatever. Here's how it is. This show stinks. I don't know why I do it. Just whatever. 179 episodes. You guys broke me.
Well, listen, you're still way ahead of me.
Yeah, but I don't like losing ever. You've won 2 in a row, and I don't like it. 36 to 25. How often, where are we at right now?
How often does that actually happen that I get 2 in a row on you?
Ago. You did it a month ago. You even got one on my birthday. That's the one that hurt the most. I can't. I can always try to win. That's all right. We'll get Robert to win this week. Again, a shorter episode here as we got more into the local stuff. And Hagen and I have both been extremely busy the last 4 days, so the show notes did not get spread out the way we were hoping. We will get a full episode next week because we will do a full first round mock draft. That'll take up a lot of time. That is for sure. But once again, want to congratulate Bryden Brown for winning his third straight individual title for Lewis Clark State Golf over there at the Warrior Invitational. That's fair. I take back everything, and he makes good points. I was up there the whole time, and I'm getting picked on. Trying to find
It's the clock. That's what it is. It's the clock. I just want you to.
But at least next week we can play that noise a lot. So there you go. That's it for this week. For the R&R Sports Report, I'm going to lick my wounds, eat some dinner, and try to get this stuff set up. If you're a nerd like myself, Bad Brackets this week was the best Final Fantasy game of all time. If you're not a nerd and you want the sports stuff, the biggest NFL draft bust is the one we're recording tonight. It will be out next Monday. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we will see who gets mad at me more. If there's an Oreo clock at the Haley, go back to Goodwill. Go find an Oreo clock. Do they make those? Who knows? All right. You guys have fun. R&R Sports Report. It's Robert. I'm Randy. This is